The Day the Sky Burned, a World War II story, American perspective. It was a Sunday morning like any other in paradise. The sun rose over the island of Oahu on December 7, 1941, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. The air was warm and carried the sweet scent of plumeria. For most American sailors and soldiers stationed at Pearl Harbor, it was a day of leisure, a time to sleep in, attend church, or write letters home to families who still imagined Hawaii as nothing more than a distant tropical dream. Les Blair, a teenage sailor aboard the USS Pennsylvania, had no idea that his life and the life of his nation was about to shatter. He was just a boy from Kinga, Oklahoma, who had left home at 16. 7 of his brothers would serve in the war to come. Only one, Joe, would not return. At 7:55 a.m., the quiet erupted. The Japanese had launched 353 warplanes in 2 waves, supported by submarines. Their target was the U.S. Pacific Fleet, sleeping peacefully in the harbor. The first bombs fell with a sound no one could immediately comprehend. Les Blair ran below deck to retrieve ammunition for his gun. When he came back topside, 8 of his crewmates lay dead. The first time he talked about it, he got very emotional and started crying, his daughter-in-law would recall decades later. For more than 50 years, he had kept the memories bottled up. But when his 11-year-old grandson began studying World War II in school, the old sailor finally opened the door. A bomb struck, and you could see parts of bodies all over the ship, he later told a group of 6th graders, his voice catching. When I talk about this, naturally I get a little emotional. The USS Arizona, the flagship of the Pacific Fleet, was among the first hit. A Japanese bomber dropped a 1,760-pound armor-piercing bomb that tore through the Arizona's deck and struck the forward magazine, the ship's ammunition storage. The explosion was cataclysmic. The Arizona lifted out of the water and then collapsed into itself. Men who had been eating breakfast or writing letters just minutes earlier were gone. In less than 9 minutes, 1,177 officers and crewmen perished on that single ship, more than half of all Americans killed that day. The waters of Pearl Harbor turned thick with blood and fuel oil. Flames raged across the surface. Men jumped from burning ships, only to find the water itself on fire. The sky above was black with smoke and swarming with Japanese planes bearing the red sun of the rising sun. It seemed, for those terrifying hours, as though the world was ending. Yet, even as the sky burned, acts of extraordinary courage unfolded. On the USS Pennsylvania, Les Blair manned his gun. A Japanese fighter plane was gunned down beside his ship. Naturally, I claim my gun shot it down, but who knows, he later said with a modest chuckle. Those old guns, you would point and pray they would hit something. The Pennsylvania was the first ship to return fire. Though damaged, it would later be repaired and fight until the war's end. In the shipyard, crane operator George Walters saw that the Pennsylvania was vulnerable as it sat in Dry Dock 1. Armed with nothing but his massive crane, he maneuvered the machine alongside the dry dock, using it as a shield to protect the battleship from attacking aircraft. When the USS Oklahoma capsized after multiple torpedo hits, 32 sailors became trapped inside the overturned hull. Shipyard workers raced against time, using pneumatic chipping guns to cut through the thick metal and pull men to safety. Some of those trapped could be heard tapping messages on the hull, taps that grew weaker and then stopped. The USS Arizona, damaged and ablaze, was the only battleship to get underway.
Rather than risk being sunk in the narrow channel and blocking the harbor, her crew grounded her near Hospital Point. Her captain ordered the colors raised, and the American flag flew above the chaos as the Nevada continued to fight. When the attack ended, after nearly 2 hours of relentless assault, the numbers were staggering. 2,403 Americans dead, 1,178 wounded, 18 ships damaged or sunk, and 170 aircraft destroyed. The Arizona still lies where she fell, a tomb for the 1,177 men entombed within her hull. To this day, oil continues to seep from her wreckage, black tears that rise to the surface of the harbor, a silent reminder of the sacrifice. But the attack did not break the American spirit. When the news reached the mainland, President Franklin Roosevelt addressed a stunned nation. December 7, 1941, he declared, was a date which will live in infamy. His voice rang through radios across the country as families gathered in their living rooms, listening in disbelief. Congress declared war on Japan with a single dissenting vote. 3 days later, Germany and Italy declared war on the United States. America was now fully committed to the global conflict. In the months that followed, the Pacific Fleet rose from the ashes. Workers salvaged what they could, repaired the damaged, and rebuilt stronger than before. The shipyard's motto, "We keep them fit to fight," was born in those dark days. Even the Arizona contributed beyond her death. Her aft turrets were removed and installed as coastal defense batteries on Oahu. Her guns from turret number 2 were salvaged, relined in New York, and installed aboard the USS Nevada. The Nevada, herself a survivor of Pearl Harbor, would go on to fight at Attu, provide fire support for the D-Day landings at Normandy, and bombard Iwo Jima and Okinawa. When she fired her guns, she was firing the Arizona's guns. In the final days of the war, as Japan prepared to surrender, the Arizona's guns thundered one last time. Some records place this final salvo on September 2, 1945, the very day Japan formally surrendered. The Arizona had fired a last shot. Les Blair survived the war. He returned to Oklahoma, married his sweetheart, Marie, the woman who had thought he died at Pearl Harbor, until a postcard arrived, and raised a family. He lived to carry the Olympic torch in 1996, to tell his story to school children, to finally let go of memories that had been bottled up for half a century. By December 2024, when the 83rd Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day ceremony was held, only a handful of survivors remained. The last survivor of the USS Arizona, Lou Conter, had passed away earlier that year. His life mantra was simple: don't panic. When the Arizona sank, he had come back in a boat to rescue his shipmates. Later in the war, when his plane was shot down over the Pacific, he told his crew, "Get ready to swim, and if a shark comes up to you, punch it in the nose." Today, the USS Arizona Memorial spans the sunken battleship's hull. Visitors from around the world come to pay their respects, to see the names of the fallen carved in marble, to watch the oil still rising from the wreckage. They come to remember a day when the sky burned, a day that awakened a nation, forged a generation, and left a legacy that endures in every American who still remembers.